And then, how would you say your wartime experiences have affected your life?
It makes me, are we good on time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It definitely makes you appreciate life. Life is really short, so if you want to live, you live as much as you can. Try to make a difference and leave the world a better place than when it came in. Just take advantage of what life has to offer, because you never know when it can be taken away.